Yes, we
Hello.
are being live streamed. We, accountability partners, one from France and one from Idaho in the United States, coming together to share our experience about personal growth and how it's working for us. And it's different for each and every one. So that's why we decided to put ourselves out there and share.
Exactly. Because we never can foresee what's going to happen. And at the same time, we can when we work on our way to receive the world. Let's say it like this.
You know, that's really true. I was reading, I was reading As a Man Thinketh, and it reminded me that we really do create the world that we are experiencing through our thoughts. And so if we think chaotic thoughts, if we think thoughts of problems and concerns and challenges and difficulties, that's what we're going to get.
Mhm. You said get, some other would say in the world of personal development would say attract. And
Yes.
that's when it gets so difficult to believe because we don't think we're that powerful, actually, to attract something. And
Yeah.
but when it happens and when you really look at it, it's difficult when you look at it from a personal point of view, and then you also realize it's not just something personal. Because, and that's why often we say that you attract the people that are on the same frequency as you, and you're the mirror of the five people that are in your environment
Mm,
at your looking glass. And
yes.
that's how it's so powerful because it's not just you, it's you, what you attract, and then the effect. And that's how you build a society, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you build a society. That's how you build a belief system. That's how you build your habits. It's all little things that add up to big things, and then those big things kind of take on a life of their own. It's who do you hang around with, and I'll tell you what your character. You tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you what you will become, essentially. And I think that's when we look at chaos, when I think of chaos, I think of how am I manifesting, attracting, creating, getting this stuff. And it's because I'm not controlling, not so much controlling, I'm not bringing my mind to peace. Because if you're at peace, if you do meditation or any kind of grounding activity, you're going to respond rather than react. And you're going to respond differently than if you are just letting yourself be led by the wind and the waves and whatever comes your way.
I think you're making an interesting point. And I think it's important to clarify the difference between reacting and responding. And
Mhm.
this just brings me back to one of my first Bob Proctor seminars where he explains it with a coin. I know I got the Bob Proctor pictures all the time.
Oh no, that's exactly what I was referring to. So I'm glad that you're describing it in greater detail.
Uh, and so, yeah, so when you react, you do it from what they say, from the immediate reaction in terms of emotions, I think. And when you respond, you still have the emotions, but you let them go through you and you look at your emotions and then you try to understand, oh, why am I feeling what I'm feeling? It's not denying the emotions because they're really precious. It's gold. But you're just looking at them and say, okay, so now what can I get from those emotions and what can I understand? And then you're going to give your answer and going to reply and respond to the situation.
Yeah. No, I love the way you describe that, because the reacting is all emotional and the responding is not. I really appreciate what you said. You're not denying the emotion, but you're looking at it and you are basically dealing with the emotion before you deal with the thing that's outside of you.
Yes. That's
I liken it to when my kids spill milk, water, whatever. If I react, I yell and I jump up and down and I get really upset. When I respond, I say, "Oops, that happened. Go get a towel, please." It's it's the difference between yelling at someone to get a towel and simply saying, "Hey, please go get a towel."
And what you say, it seems so, it's true. And as you say, like something that happens to all of us, that's part of our daily life. And but sometimes, you know, the reactions we have, we're not realizing they're come from somewhere. And I know it comes from the parenting because you're reacting like this, your kid will react like that, you know? And sometimes as an adult, you have to deprogram because you have those reactions. And at the same time, when you were talking, it made me think I still have, even though I'm aware of what you're saying, and I know so much the difference between reacting and responding. Well, last night there was an episode where I reacted. It still
Mm,
happens. And I think you have to be ready that even when you know, you still won't know sometimes. You know, it will still happen. And it happened while we were watching we are watching the series Lost. I don't know if you know the
oh
series.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know about it. I've never actually watched it.
Well, it's the first season, and there is a doctor, and I think he's a surgeon, yeah. And he explains how he deals with fear. He talks about his first surgery, and
Mhm.
he was taken by the fear and says, I let the fear go out for like 5 seconds. And so for 5 seconds, he lets the fear come. He says, okay, I'm fearful right now. And he counts. And after 5 seconds, well, he does what he has to do. But yeah, we're not really taught to do this, I guess. And yeah, but really, this is a power we can all master, and especially in those times when things happen.
Mhm.
And generally, we still have our emotions that come out, and social media is just such a fast means to let emotions out without thinking about the consequences, too.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually heard that there are um, companies that look at social media when they're hiring people to see if they are reactive or if they are respectful. And so your social media responses or reactions can get you in sometimes in hot water. And, I think that one of the things that just occurred to me is it feels like reacting is what your inner child does. Responding is what you do when you have soothed, comforted, dealt with, healed the inner child, and you're able to act like an adult. And an adult is someone who is supposed to be able to calmly assess the situation. If you think about a little kid who runs to you with a scraped up knee, or they cut themselves with a knife, The last thing you want is an adult who screams and cries and faints while the kid has a little owie. You want somebody there who's going to be able to calm and soothe the child and say, it's okay. Let's wash it. Let's put some salve on it. Let's put a Band-Aid on it. You're going to be okay. You're not going to bleed to death from this little tiny cut. But to the child, a little cut is the end of the world. And so the child is reacting. And I feel like there's a lot of adults who are reacting because their inner child is still in charge.
I was about to say that it seems that in our society, we're all still children because I rarely see those people saying, oh, it's okay, it's okay. You're bleeding, but that's natural. It's a natural phenomenon. It's physical, it's okay. And that's also why sometimes you have issues at work, in our personal relationships. When you look at the political sphere, it's all because we're still reacting, and nobody is able to be the adult saying, okay, that's pretty, I mean, intense, and you're allowed to have those reactions, those emotions, but
Mhm.
you're going to be okay, you're going to be fine. We're going to find a solution, you know?
Yeah,
So instead, we are just putting like oil on the fire.
yeah,
Instead, you know what I mean?
yep. Yeah, that's very true. And if you think about it, or no. So the audience may or may not know that I have 8 children. And one of the things that my wife and I decided early on is we would react differently when the child fell down versus when they actually cut themselves or injured themselves. If they just fell down, most children are looking to see, okay, how should I respond to this? Is this a bad thing? Is this a good thing? Is this something that I can cry about and get attention? Or is this something that I laugh off and just, go on with my life? And my wife and I decided, okay, we're going to look at them. Oh, good. We'll either laugh or say, good job, you fell down, hop back up. Um, and we would respond to them so that they would then not react every time they fell down, because a child is learning how to either react or respond from the adults around them. And so a lot of our kids, now they're adults, and they look at things that their friends react to. Oh, it's devastating. I fell down and I hurt myself. Um, I didn't get a paycheck. I didn't become the prom queen and king. Um, they look at those things and say, it's okay. You learned, you grew, we moved on. It's okay. And I think that so much of the political society, they're not teaching each other. They're not talking to each other. And it's okay. This happens every 4 years, or this happens every year. Elections are won and lost on a regular basis, and it's okay. They're all about, oh no, terrible things will happen, the apocalypse will occur.
I think, yeah, what you're pointing out is some have the ability, when you have learned from those intense emotions, you have the ability to see the greater picture, the global picture. Like, okay, this is going to happen, but I'm going to survive. And today, in reaction to the news and the assassination attempt, I watched a video from a person who has analyzed the situation, but from a higher perspective. And he said that this is just reminding us that this is a human being, that, and many people, you may like him or not, but it's a human being, and it just reminds us he's just human, and the one who has the power, it's not him, and he's in charge of his life. What he's doing is great or not great depending on what you identify with, but in the end, you who are watching and listening to us, you have the power, nobody else, you know? And it's just
Hmm.
reminding us, yeah, tomorrow you could also die. Tomorrow you could not be there. And you
Yeah,
have to do something, you know, if you want to take charge, you know, be in charge of your life, you have the power.
yeah. Well, so let's back up several months. If I, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but there was political unrest in France and protests and rallies and all sorts of stuff. And did the country fall apart? It doesn't look like it.
Not yet. No, I'm sorry. No, but this is very interesting because you see, it's about what also we have voices outside of us, opinions, perspectives, but there are only opinions. It's all about, do you believe them or not? What you believe is going to create your reality. May you believe it or not. And it's just also, it's the effect of the people you have around you. If you're only around people that do not believe that reality, well, this will not happen. Of course, the world is going to evolve, society is going to evolve, but it all depends on your perspective. So for now, no, I don't think that the world um has, I mean, nothing collapsed for now, but
Yeah,
choose not to be affected by that reality directly, at least.
yeah. I love one of the things that Peggy McCall said one time was there was a recession and I chose not to participate. And I was like, that's a really cool way to look at it. She said there were things going on outside, and I just chose not to internalize it and say, oh no, my life is over. People aren't going to buy my products. I have to stock up on toilet paper because the world is going to go terrible again. She said, I why internalize it? Why give myself indigestion and ulcers and raise my blood pressure when I'm in charge of me? I'm in charge of me, not the world.
And you see, I think it's very important you use the word internalize, because it's not, sometimes people say, yeah, but you're just denying what's happening, you know? And it's not really about this, because things are going to happen. We're going to
Hmm.
see them. We cannot not acknowledge that things are happening. We cannot not see, but we're just like, okay, it's happening, but I'm not
Hmm.
going to get affected directly.
Yeah, I'm not going to um, play with the fire. I I see that there is a fire, but it doesn't mean that I have to stick my hand in it.
Yes. You will still have to not go towards the fire and burn yourself, of course,
Yeah.
but you choose to stay away and see how you can find means of water to, I mean, soothe the fire, or even not react. Because if you're focusing on the fact that there is a fire, all you will see is the fire. Because, and maybe in the background there is something totally different, like a total different environment, you know?
Well, it's if you're so focused on the fire, you may not see the bucket of water that's just behind you.
Yeah.
If you can stop, if you can let go of the fire for just a few seconds and look around you and evaluate your situation. And I think that's what you were talking about earlier. You've got the emotion is strong. When my kids spill milk, the emotion is strong and it's immediate, but I'm able to create just a gap between having the emotion and acting on the emotion. And in that little tiny gap, I'm able to look around and remind myself, you know what? She's 8 years old and I love this little girl. She just made a mess, but I love her more than I love cleanliness. And I was not good at this for a long time. So don't think I've never made this mistake. But I had to learn my child is more important than any activity that I'm doing. And so I had to find that gap so that I could look around for the bucket of water or the fire extinguisher or anything else and not get so focused on the fire that I lost sight of everything else.
Absolutely. And I think it takes training because even though I, yeah, even though I
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you, there's a fire, do not react to the fire. We have been programmed. When you come to Earth, you're programmed to react. I mean, emotions, it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
school of emotions, really. And sometimes it's so difficult when things are happening in the outside world, and you see them. And because you still have those emotions. Sometimes you want to, I feel it so intensely, and you want to react, and I'm still there. And for now, I'm just like, okay, but would my reaction bring something to the world, or will it just bring more intense reactions, more intense emotions in myself? So for now, I'm like, okay, and I try to transmute them, but I'm still not there. So I'm really in the process. That's why I'm really silent on social media right now. And but it doesn't mean I feel a lot of things right now. I know when today I love the topic because chaos, this is really what we're going through right now. And as well, we've been feeling it. We know it's a time of change. And yeah, even though they want to make it as the apocalypse in every election for every election, but no, something really special is happening right now on Earth. And it's so much bigger than all those things. And so you can feel things, but it's difficult sometimes to externalize them in a
And,
way. Yeah,
and keep them external,
exactly.
not identify with them or internalize them.
Yes.
Yeah, you're exactly right because this is a special time and there is a lot of energy in the way I feel it is there's a lot of energy swirling. And so change is taking place. Um, and so the question is, am I going to get so caught up in it that I cannot think? And I admit today I'm kind of struggling because the energy is really hitting me very strongly. And I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. But fortunately, a friend of mine said, Neil, just focus on self-care. And so I've taken a lot of naps recently because there's just so much going on. I have to pause, separate myself, relax, and then I can go back into whatever's affecting me. And I think that right there is one of the things that we run into with problems is hard to disconnect when this is attached to your hip all the time, or when this is, on your nightstand by your bed, you're getting constant notifications. I have chosen not to get notifications from Facebook or email or some of the news outlets, because I want that space. When I'm prepared, I can go get it, but I don't need it bombarding me all the time.
You need to be the master of what's getting at you, you know? Oh, we don't know. Just I'm talking sometimes to myself, but that's a side effect. But you're right with the we're always connected and we forget about being connected to ourselves. And some people may think this is very selfish to say when it's chaos outside, to say, okay, I don't want to be part of it. I'm just going to focus on myself. But at the same time, if everybody would do that, if everybody in the midst of chaos would say, okay, I'm just withdrawing, I'm going to focus on myself, getting back to peace, well, there wouldn't be any more chaos anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I think back to the philosophy that Jesus taught: love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love yourself, if you don't create boundaries and take care of yourself, how can you take care of anybody else? You have to do this, because when I have allowed others to run my emotions, I lose, but only 100% of the time.
Absolutely. And I guess that's the purpose. Sorry, I guess that's the purpose of chaos. It's to remind you of the fact that actually you are in charge, you're in control. There might be chaos, but it's up to you in the end.
Yeah, it's up to me to decide whether the chaos is mine, or whether I will identify with the chaos, or whether I won't.
Yes. And then, so you see the chaos, you know, you have to not react. So where do we go from there?
Well, I think you acknowledge the chaos, but again, you find that gap. And this was something that took me a long time to figure out, because kids would spill milk and I would yell. I didn't know that there was a whole cascade of processes that was taking place. Kids would spill milk. I would have a thought about that spilled milk. I would have a feeling to go along with that thought. And then I would have an emotion to go along with that feeling. And then I would take an action, which is yelling. I had to stop and analyze for a long time. Okay, what was the thought that I had right after the milk was spilled? Because milk spilling is just an event. Um, uh, War starting, rain falling, snow falling, accident happening. It's just an event. The only thing that gives it any power is my thought about that event. So I began to practice trying to identify the thought after I had yelled. And then I began to shorten that length until I was actually identifying the thought right after the milk was spilled. But it took time away from the other chaos in order for me to figure out what's going on inside me. What is my thought, feeling, emotion that leads to the action?
I think you described the process pretty well. And you do it because right now you're not in the reaction. You're not in the
Mhm.
moment. And it
Yeah.
this brought me back to the moment I had, for example, last night or this morning, and I was able to see the process, but also often the chaos is caused by the fact that someone else does not have the same view or opinion or perspective on something. So you're facing a different reality with your own reality. And you both are describing something that is real. And but we only think that, okay, I'm right. The other person must be wrong. And when you have those emotions, well, it's easier. That's why sometimes it's easier to talk after a few hours, sometimes a few days. But where you're in the middle of the storm, it's very difficult because it's like you have something, the intellect, the intellectual plane that is ready, say, okay, I can understand, but the emotional brain, or I don't know if it's the
Yep.
heart, the emotional brain is not able to do that.
Yeah.
And that's when it's very hard. And then when you can calm down those emotions and get back to your normal level of emotion, well, you can see what the other saw and guess, okay, maybe I've acted like this because of that, and understand your patterns and your programming, because it's all about how you were educated and, yeah, the program we have.
Yeah.
Paradigm.
I've been listening to a book recently about a captain, and she was the captain of a super yacht. And she said, whenever the waves and the wind come up and it's chaos outside, I have to be the calm. I am the calm in the storm because my crew reacts to me. If I flip out, they flip out. But if I'm joking and saying, ah ha ha, my shoes are gonna get wet, um, and reminding them, okay, you've got a task to do this and this and this. Focus on the task. Don't worry about how big the waves are or how hard the wind is blowing. And she said, that's where you realize I am the calm in the storm.
Hmm. The captain of your soul. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. But you have to make that choice, and you have to be prepared to make that choice because you never know when the wind is going to come up. You never know when the milk is going to get spilled. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm an advocate of meditation, is because that is the preparation for when the milk gets spilled. If you don't take that time, you will always react.
I'm just wondering, how many times will you have to react to realize you're reacting? Because from what we can see today is, and this is part of the challenges of that world, is that we are aware of the processes and we are able to see, oh, I'm reacting, now I'm going to respond, because we've understood that we were reacting. But today, and we cannot blame them because we've been there, there are still many that react and are not, there are still many who do not realize they're reacting. And to me, I'm gonna personally, this is the most difficult part because I see people reacting and I would like to tell them, you're just being emotional, reacting, but it's gonna be okay. But when you're in that storm, you're not able to hear that voice and you don't want to hear it because
No.
there's something so strong inside of you, the emotional part, the triggers, and you only think that they are the only reality.
Yeah.
Everybody's wrong.
And to me, because we have been through that storm, we can show a lot of compassion for the people who are caught in it for the first time. And that to me is where we can, how do I put this? We can be a blanket around that flame. When somebody else catches on fire because all they can see is the fire, we can be the blanket and wrap them in our arms and simply say, I understand why you are so upset. I have been there. And give them a chance to rage and yell and burn, but also help them find the aloe vera and the cold water.
You know, you're absolutely right. But at the same time, I think you can be that blanket that helps them, like, well, stop the flame. But also, there is a point when it's reached, you cannot do it for them all the time because then they're getting used to it. Like,
Oh yeah.
oh, I can go into a rage, I can give out and just spread all my intense emotions without any consequences. And no, and this is why sometimes I think it's very important to stay stop, look at yourself. Why are you doing this? Why are you reacting? And say no and set boundaries. And because when you're setting boundaries, there's like a mirror that is gonna shed light on something on their part, and they have to become their own blanket. They have, like you said, they have to go grab that bucket of water and put it on the fire, you know?
Yeah. The one thing that in all of my study, that I have come to understand, and I believe this to be the case, when they're on fire is not the time to teach them.
No, definitely not.
And so you have to be willing and able to come back around at a different time when they are calm and say, okay, I helped you out. I was your blanket here. In the future, you're going to have to become your own blanket, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, because more than once or twice, and I'm going to separate myself from you when you get on fire, because it is dangerous for me. And that's where you're setting up healthy boundaries. You're not just cutting them off when they're on fire. You are explaining, I can't be around you when you're on fire. And so you're giving them consequences, not punishment, but simply consequences of this is, and by doing that, you are removing chaos from your life. And if there's somebody who just feeds on the chaos and loves to be on fire, you set your personal boundaries, and eventually that person moves on to other people who want to have them be on fire around them.
I think this is very interesting because you said something like they're used to chaos.
Yeah,
And true, and used to chaos, it's used to live with your traumas and act as if all your wounds were the normal state, which is
yeah.
not. And at the same time, so chaos is like healing a part of that, I guess, you know?
So getting away from chaos is healing that wound.
Yes, but you need the chaos to realize, no?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So in my opinion, chaos happens when you are unaware of what's of what you're thinking. It's the idea that if you are the if your world around you is the result of your own thinking, then you have to have the world to show you what you're thinking.
Exactly. So what we're living, it's just a reflection of what's inside of us. And it's so difficult to admit it because you think, oh, how is it possible that just what I'm feeling or I'm thinking is what's out there, you know?
Yeah. Why would this terrible thing happen to me? Why would my relationship fail? Or why would I get in an accident? Abraham Hicks is all over that. She's like, you've got it somewhere in your thought patterns. So you look at it and you say, huh, didn't know I had that there still. Okay, time to let it go. And by taking it more as a, huh, that's an interesting response, or that's an interesting piece of feedback that I'm getting, it's not so bad. It's not the end of the world. It's just something that's happening.
I know it, I don't know if it's in context, but I just keep having that picture of we're talking about the about politics and the news and well when the political figure we're talking about was shot and then after it's surprising to many of us like he just gets up and he's like and he says fight and it's just when you analyze that in terms of mindset how powerful is it when you're in the midst of chaos because anyone in that situation I would say I would be so frightened and
Oh
just
yeah.
get up and say fight this takes so much strength just to be able to do that and this means mastering what's inside and outside you know and
Yeah.
your own power.
You learn a lot about a person when they are in the midst of chaos, when they are in the midst of something that surprises them. You find out, are they going to react or are they going to respond? It's to me, children are the best teachers in the world because if you get it wrong one time, don't worry, they'll do it again. And so my kids used to spill milk a lot, and I would react and I would yell and I would go crazy and do stupid things. And now I don't even notice if they spill milk. I it doesn't affect me, and so I don't see it happening. It may still happen, but I don't know it.
And I was just thinking, you're used to getting milk spilled, but some people are used to being a target and
Yeah.
they could be shot at any time. I guess many people who are very high level feel like this. So I guess it's what you said, just used to it and you've mastered this. So you're not impacted like you would have been first or at the beginning of.
Exactly. Exactly. I've learned how to stop and find my own blanket. I'm not waiting for somebody else to be the blanket for me. I've learned to stop and look around for a bucket of water rather than waiting for somebody else to rush in with a bucket of water. I am my own firefighter.
Hmm. I think that's a beautiful way of saying it. And yeah,
And with that, shall we call it for the week?
I think we could. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
We'll see you in 2 weeks, I guess. Uh,
sounds good. Thank you very, very much, Delphine.
thank you, Neil. See you soon.